So I am joined today with Diane Burley. And the reason I wanted to jump on the phone, jump on the live so quickly, and don't worry, this will be very short, is to give you a sneak peek at a very special program we just added to the calendar. And you will see this at projectkin.org/events for July 29th. Hello, Bruce. Welcome. It's a delight to have you. So, our special program is called The Scoop on Memories. And I want Diane to tell you a little bit about it. And I think it'll be pretty clear why this hit my sweet spot. And I said, yes, we got to do this. Welcome, Lauren and Kathy. It's a delight to see you. So, Diane, over to you. Why are we doing this? What's going on?
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for encouraging me to get on here and do this with you and for asking me to do so. It was really just terrific. Yeah, a few weeks ago, I wrote an essay called Sundays Are for Sundays. And it was a little thing that I did with my kids, one of those days that you're just exhausted. And I turned to my kids, and they were probably 4 and 6 at the time, little boys running around, lots of energy. By the way, they'd been eating all day long, and they said, "What's for dinner?" And I was thinking, I need to make another meal, like I need a hole in the head, right? So I said, "We'll have Sundays." And they looked at me and like, "What?" I said, "Sundays, we'll have Sundays because the Sundays are for Sundays, and I'm getting more, yeah, we're going to do it." And they were like, not into it. Oh my gosh, it was amazing how they were looked so grim. And so, what are you doing to us? Is this a trap? Are you trying to get us into something, and then you're going to yank it away? I mean, like, who knew what they were really thinking? But I remember reading their facial expressions, and they ate. And they ate very solemnly and very slowly and quietly. Yeah, something's wrong.
The ice cream.
Yes, with chocolate sauce and other things on it. It was being really, Anyway, I thought I was the worst mother in the world, and this was just height of laziness. Oh, by the way, when they finished eating, they looked at me and sort of like David Copperfield, like said, "May we have dinner now, Mom?" I had to make them something.
Please, may I have some more?
So years go by, like 20 years go by, and I'm recently trying to come up with an essay idea, and my oldest son says to me, "Why don't you do how Sundays are for Sundays?" And I'm like, "What?" And he says, "Yeah, Sundays are for Sundays. We used to do that every Sunday." And that's how we got to making ice cream on Sundays. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So how did this memory thing occur? I mean, and this is really funny from a genealogy standpoint, right? I mean, they've got this fantastic memory. I've got this horrible memory. How can that be? Well, it really comes down to there are these facts in our life, right? And a fact is, there's weather or there's no weather or it's sunny out or whatever. They ate ice cream on a Sunday. And we made ice cream on Sundays. They just put the two events together. In their brains, they took a semantic memory, which was ice cream on a Sunday, and a happy memory, eating ice cream. And they turned it, which is an episodic memory, and they turned it into this wonderful, lovely memory for them. For me, as a mom, I saw those little boys' faces and felt like the biggest failure on the planet. So in my mind, that fact of presenting Sundays on a Sundays, the episode was negative. So I filed it under something, don't do that ever again.
That's brilliant. And it's the joy of that moment anybody can relate to. And it actually, in all seriousness, for all of us as family historians and genealogists, really puts a finger on something that I think is so deep and important about the difference between fact and story, is how it's usually presented. But that's such an important combination.
It is. And what's interesting is you're creating facts. Just seem like they should be facts, but there's often feelings associated with a given fact. Like, all right, I'm from Buffalo, and people hear that and they go, "Oh my God, it's horrible cold." Blah. I had friends and family there, and the snow removal was so efficient. It scooped up the flakes as they were being, tossed to the ground. I don't have that connotation of it being horrible. Now, you go to college in Buffalo and you don't have a car and you had to walk in, 3-foot drifts and the bus is coming by and splashing with, it's not a pleasant experience. So you're filing Buffalo weather under miserable experience. Don't ever do that again. I'm looking at it like, no big deal. It was a happy experience. So really, you have to, it's a lens, right? What the fact and what comes out of that fact is really, you think every story should be objective, but there's a subjectivity to everything. And we know that from having been in the news business, but I think that's what a lot of people that are in the genealogy business forget. And what happens in the news business is you start to amplify the stories that get the clicks. And so you know your audience, and so you repeat it, even if it's a little, it's getting further and further out there. And I think we do that as storytellers. We go, oh, this resonates with my audience, so let me tell it again. And maybe I leave out some more parts and I embellish other parts of it.
That's especially true, I think, for any kind of storytelling, the traditional campfire story, the ghost story, these kinds of story. And then when somebody else hears that story, now it's secondhand. Now they're telling it to their audience and they're embellishing and they're embellishing. And within a family, that happens as well as you have siblings. I'm the youngest. I have a sister 10 years older, a brother 8 years older, a sister 4 years older. So we have this wonderful little range of memories of places. And I've been dwelling on this topic for a long time and not found a way to present it. I've always thought about it as what I think of as the Rashomon effect. Rashomon is a samurai movie by Kurosawa, I believe, in the 1950s. And it's classic, Wikipedia article just to prove it.
If you look at the citations.
Right. Just point that out. And it classically tells an event. I believe it's a murder or something like that. And as told by 5 or 6 or 7 different people. And it's, emotion. It's all of these aspects. And what I loved about your post was the way you rolled in the science as it relates to it, like a good reporter. You're pulling in the larger story, but then you've brought that into the very human, very personal side. So all of you joining in, thank you so much for tuning in on let's face it, very short notice. Feel free to chime in with questions. And we are planting this as a little seed because we're going to come right back to the topic of memories and ask about what you remember and the questions that you have over the coming weeks leading up to the this fun news session on an odd time. It'll be at 10 a.m. on July 29th. And I'll tell you a little secret why. I'm going on a trip on the Thursday, so it didn't work. So sometimes you got to make adjustments. And that's just part of how we roll around here, and how we as a community roll. And I just can't thank all of you enough for chiming in with this very short notice as we all prepare for here in the United States. Anyway, prepare for an important American holiday. And I don't know about you, but certainly every holiday brings up for me memories of past experiences and past holidays. For friends here on the Substack, Lori Olson White and Denise Allen have recently launched a new Substack publication called Bicentennial Memory Project, I believe. And it's fun because it steps back to the very same day, tomorrow, here in the US, when it was the 200th anniversary, the bicentennial, in 1976. Many of us are of an age that we will remember that. And it's a little bit of what happened and why was the memory important to you. I think it's a very fun assignment because it really, in many ways, reminds us of the complexity of the time. There she is. Thank you, Lori, for joining. You just heard we were talking about you. um, And it introduces the complexity of that time. And by 1976, of course, those of us who were old enough to be paying attention to the outside world will remember Watergate, the end of the Vietnam War. Gerald Ford. I'll have to remember before or after the bicentennial. Before, I'm pretty sure. And each of these, historic events. But what were we feeling? What happened? Where were you at that moment in time? I was in Hawaii, which had been a state for less than 10 years, or actually going on 20 years at that point. I mean, it was 59. We arrived in 68. So, it was a very different experience, I think, than in some place like Philadelphia, for example. And where we were, where you were in your life, what was going on in your life. Yeah, I think that'll be a very interesting topic to pick up on. And then, while you're thinking about it, join us on July 29th to get the scoop on memories. Diane, where were you or were you around in 1976?
I was, and I have a fun little story. My cousin's daughter was the bicentennial baby. She was born in Buffalo, and she
Mhm.
was the baby that was born, and so she got all these great gifts of Pampers, and this young couple needed these diapers in the worst way. So yeah, Megan was the bicentennial baby for the area, which is pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
what I think of when I think of bicent. I mean, I know there were a lot of other things going on too, but
Yeah.
yeah, you know, for family who needed them.
Yeah. 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 No, it's interesting. Thinking through even, so often, I mean, diapers are a technology and, looking paper diapers anyway are a technology and looking at how everything from how children were raised to the practical things of, the Jello forms and things like Tang, things like that we had as a regular part of our meal. What was the picnic like? Sorry, Lori, I just noticed thinking about that and picnics and potato salad for each of these
And
steps
I'm making
for
my
different
potato salad
moments.
for Lori. I haven't made it yet in a while, but I've got a crowd, so I'll make it this weekend, and I'll finally have the measurements for it, so then I can send it over to
There
her.
you go. There you go. Well, speaking of making the potato salad, I promise to keep this very, very short. I am so thrilled to see all of you joining today. It is, I can't tell you how important that is to me. And I hope this was already fun, putting it in here. Don't worry, Lori, I will be including that link to this post when I send it out as a recording. With all of these for Projectkin, I do feel very strongly in making sure that all content is available to everybody in any form that works for you, because that's kind of what we do. And so I will be circulating this to our community, and you will have the ability to do that as well, Diane. And It's a good time. We're going to have you back again on Sunday, July 27th, as well as my special guest for my regular Sunday Substack Live. And hey, after all, it seemed really scary to get this going the first time, but it is kind of fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's great.
I just don't know why it is, but it is. Thank you all for joining us. It was a delight, and certainly for all of you who celebrate, all of you Americans, enjoy a very happy 4th of July. For all of you who are not Americans, enjoy the peace and quiet while all those Americans are distracted. Again, thank you. Talk
Thanks
soon.
so much. Bye now.
Bye bye.